So first we are going to study mechanism of evolution. Mechanism of evolution. First topic. In this, Hugo de Vries will study. Hugo de Vries. He proposed the mutation theory of evolution. Mutational theory of evolution. Mutational theory of evolution. Mutational theory of evolution. Hugo de Vries. And he conducted some experiments on a plant that is Enothera lamarckiana. Experiments on the plant that is Enothera lamarckiana. Enothera lamarckiana. Enothera lamarckiana. Enothera lamarckiana. Evening primrose. And he believed that the evolution is taking place through mutations only. The evolution will takes place and taken place by with the help of mutations only, through mutations and minor variations. So he believes that mutations are responsible for evolution. Mutations are responsible for evolution. Hugo de Vries believes that mutations are responsible for evolution, and also not by minor variations. According to Charles Darwin, minor variations, but according to Hugo de Vries, mutations only. The evolution takes place by mutations only. But according to Charles Darwin, minor variations. So there is one more principle that explains the evolution process is Charles Darwinism Principles. Charles Darwinism Principle explains that the evolution takes place by very minor variations. Accumulation of all the minor variations leads to a new species formation. Like many generations, these many minor variations gather to form a new species, development of new species. That is minor variations. But according to Hugo de Vries, the mutations leads to large variations. Okay, according to Hugo de Vries, or mutations leads to large variations. Next, according to Charles Darwin, the evolution is very slow and directional. According to Charles Darwin, the rate of evolution is very slow, damn slow, and directional. That means the evolution is following one particular direction. But whereas the Hugo de Vries mutational theory of evolution explains that the evolution is random, and all of a sudden it is not very gradual, random, all of a sudden, and directionless. There is no proper direction. There is no one particular direction for the evolution to be happened. Directionless. And according to Charles Darwin, the evolution is gradual. But according to mutational theory, the speciation by saltation. What is meant by saltation? The saltation stands for the single step and large mutations. Single step and large mutations. Single step, large mutations is nothing but a saltation. Okay, so this is the explanation of Hugo de Vries theory and a comparison with Charles Darwinism theory. Now we are going to study one more important principle, which is very important for competitive examination, NEET exam, that is Hardy-Weinberg equilibrium. Okay, Hardy-Weinberg equilibrium. Given by Hardy and Weinberg both. Hardy-Weinberg equilibrium explained by both scientists, Hardy and Weinberg. Hardy and Weinberg equilibrium principle. Hardy and Weinberg equilibrium principle. Hardy Weinberg equilibrium principle. So what it states? It states that the allelic frequencies in a population will be stable and are stable. The allelic frequencies in a population are stable and constant. The allelic frequencies, the allelic frequencies are stable and constant. Stable and constant. The allelic frequencies are stable and constant from generation to generation. The allelic frequencies are constant and stable. Stable and constant won't change from generation to generation. From generation to generation. From generation to generation. But there is a condition. There is a condition. The condition is any evolutionary influences must be absent. So the condition is any other evolutionary influences must be absent. Must be absent. Must be absent. Any other evolutionary influences must be absent. So then only from generation to generation, the allelic frequencies will be stable and constant. Got it, everyone? Hardy Weinberg, allelic frequencies will be stable and constant from generation to generation only in the absence of the any other evolutionary influences. So that's why I written condition here. Any other evolutionary influences must be absent. Then only the allelic frequency will remain stable and constant over generations. Got it? Next. That is, there is a gene pool, the term we should know, the total genes and their alleles in a population. That is gene pool. Gene pool. Gene pool stands for, gene pool is nothing but the total genes and their alleles. Total genes and their alleles in a population is called gene pool. Is called gene pool. The total genes and their alleles in a population is called gene pool. It's called gene pool. Will remains constant. The gene pool will remains constant. Remains constant. Will remains constant. And that is called genetic equilibrium or Hardy-Weinberg equilibrium. This remains constant. No, that this is nothing but genetic equilibrium. Genetic equilibrium. Genetic equilibrium or Hardy-Weinberg equilibrium. Hardy-Weinberg equilibrium. Hardy-Weinberg equilibrium. Okay. So the gene pool is nothing but the total number of genes and their alleles in a population will remain constant. That is called genetic equilibrium or Hardy-Weinberg equilibrium. Okay. And the sum total of all the allelic frequencies, is equal to 1. The sum total of all the allelic frequencies, the sum total of all, okay, of all allelic frequencies, sum total of all equal to 1. Is equal to 1. For example, I'll tell one example. I think your condition you understood, right? I'm erasing it. For example, in a diploid, one diploid condition will take. The P and Q, let us say P and Q. Okay, this P, Q are the frequencies of alleles. Let us say these P and Q are frequencies. These frequencies, the P and Q are frequencies of the alleles A and A, of alleles, frequencies of A and A alleles, A and A alleles, capital A and small a. One is dominant character and one denotes recessive character. Capital A denotes dominant character and small a denotes recessive character. Okay, so in a diploid condition, the P and Q refers to the frequencies and the capital A and small a are nothing but alleles respectively. Okay, alleles respectively. Next, the frequency. Now frequency. The frequency of P square. What is the frequency of P square now? Like A only, you know, A. Because, okay, the frequency of AA we should take. That is P square. Next, what about AA? Small a is Q, right? So Q square, right? Next, capital A small a. Capital A small a is nothing but 2pq. It indicates 2pq. 2pq. So frequencies. The frequency of dominant, homozygous recessive, and heterozygous individuals in a population. See, the frequency of homozygous dominant individuals in a population, the frequency of homozygous recessive individuals in a population, and the frequency of heterozygous individuals in a population. So capital A is nothing but a P square. Why? Because capital P, A and Q small a, right? So capital A means P square, and small a means Q square. So finally we can denote a small equation, right? And hence P square plus and hence P square plus 2pq plus q square. P square plus 2pq plus q square. What it means? Sum total of all allelic frequencies. Sum total of all allelic frequencies. Okay? P square plus 2pq q plus q square. This is sum total of all allelic frequencies. What it is? Must be 1. Is equal to 1. This is just a binomial expression. It is just a binomial expression of P plus Q whole square. P plus Q whole square, and this indicates a binomial expression. Binomial expression. It's a binomial expression. Got it? You can solve any problem which is based on the Hardy-Weinberg equilibrium. They'll give frequencies and we have to find out. Very simple. If you know this principle clearly, you can solve any question based on the Hardy-Weinberg equilibrium principle. Got it? And the change in the frequency of alleles. Okay, the change in the frequencies of alleles. If the frequencies are going to change, definitely it will crosses 1. It will deviate from the 1. Yes or no? If P square plus 2pq plus q square equal to 1, it should be. But if the frequency changes, if any frequency changes, any allele, if frequency changes, definitely it deviates the equilibrium, right? It will deviate the equilibrium. Okay, and no more constancy will be there. We cannot find any constancy. So that deviates the equilibrium. Okay, and that deviation in equilibrium, that disturbance in genetic equilibrium is due to evolution. Is due to evolution only. So now we are going to study what are the factors which affect this equilibrium. What are the factors which deviate equilibrium? We are going to study now. Okay, we are going to study the factors which deviates equilibrium. So what is the first factor which comes in the factors which deviate equilibrium? Factors which deviates equilibrium. Weinberg equilibrium. Weinberg equilibrium. The first one, gene migration. The first one, gene migration. Gene migration. What it means? The flow of genes. Gene migration means flow of genes from one population to another population. The flow of genes from one population to another population is nothing but gene migration. Okay, flow of genes, one population to another population. Okay, from one population to another population, flow of genes is going to happen. That is gene migration. It definitely changes or deviates the genetic equilibrium. And second one, genetical drift. Genetic drift. Genetic drift. The accidental gene flow. By the gene flow by chance, accidental gene flow, which will causes the change in the frequencies, of course, right? Accidental gene flow, accidental gene flow, accidental gene flow. The accidental gene flow is nothing but genetic drift. Sometimes the change in the frequency is so different. Okay, accidental gene flow. 1 second, everybody. So coming to this genetic drift, suppose there is one geographical region and one population called A, one particular population, I'm telling, in the geographical region there are many kinds of populations are there. One particular population, okay, they starts migrating to other geographical regions. Here, there is a new sample of population is entering into the another geographical region because they are migrated, right? These are migrating and entering into the other population. That means these new sample of population is entering into the geographical region. Geographical region A, geographical region P, geographical region Q. One population A is transferring, migrating to geographical region Q. So this leads to change in the frequencies, and whoever starts migrating for the first time, the original the individuals who first starts the drifting, they are considered as founders. The original drifted populations, they are called founders, and that effect is called the founders leads to change in the genetic frequencies. And if they are going to start migrating to another geographical region and then another geographical region, it leads to change in the frequency in all the geographical regions. But who starts that one particular species population called A, I told no. So they are called founders, and the effect is called founder effect, and this effect is called founder effect. So hope you understood this. Next, number 3. The third factor which deviates equilibrium is mutation. Third factor, mutation. We already studied about mutations, right? Just previous theory we studied. It results in the formation of new phenotypes, right? Mutations results in new phenotypes. New phenotypes. The mutations results in new phenotypic formations. Next factor, genetic recombination. Genetic recombination. Genetic recombination. Genetic recombinations. What it means, recombination. What is the meaning of recombination? What is the meaning of recombination? The formation of production of non-parental combinations. Production of non-parental combinations. Suppose AB one parent, CD one parent. AC, BD offsprings are produced. AC, BD, A, C, B, D. These are offsprings. These are parents. This is nothing but recombination. Formation, production of non-parental combinations is called recombination. Anyhow, this will come in the principles of inheritance and variation, right? So it is the reshuffling, no? It is shuffling or reshuffling of gene combinations. Suppose this is one gene combination, CD is one gene combination. Reshuffling happened, AC and BD it results in. So this is nothing but genetic recombination. Definitely it leads to some variations only, no? Genetic recombination leads to variations only. That's it. Okay. Reshuffling of genes leads to variations. Reshuffling of genes that leads to variations. So totally four factors which deviates equilibrium we studied till now. First one, gene migration. What is gene migration? Flow of genes from one population to another population. And the second factor is genetic drift. The accidental gene flow is nothing but genetic drift. Mutations are nothing but which results in new phenotypes. And genetic recombination is reshuffling of genes which leads to variations. Next, one more factor is there. That is specially we will study. That is natural selection. Natural selection means we might have studied in Charles Darwin's theory, Darwinism. Okay. Natural selection. That is the first, fifth factor and the most important factor which deviates equilibrium. Natural selection. The natural selection means the nature is going to select. The nature is going to select the suitable species. Those who are capable of surviving and ability to adapt the new changes. The nature is going to select them only. Those who are not able to change their adaptations or not going to be adapted to the new environments, they are going to be eliminated from the environment. The nature is going to do that. So this is purely a selection by the nature. Okay, that is called natural selection. Only capable species and suitable species will be survived, and those who are unable to survive, they will be eliminated from the environment. Whoever incapable of surviving new environments, they will be eliminated from the environment. Okay. So that is called natural selection, and this natural selection is classified into three types. The natural selection is classified into three types. So first one, stabilized selection. Stabilizing selection. Second one, directional selection. Third one, disruptive selection. First one, what is first one? That is stabilizing selection. That means, let's take, there are two extremities in the geographical, any geographical region. Let's take two extremities. Okay, let's take two extremities. It is a geographical region. Let's point out E1 and E2. Let's say this E1 and E2 are the two extremities in that environment, and the central point, that is mean value. Okay, and from the mean value, the populations distributed towards both the extremities almost all same. The population which are distributed towards both extremities, the population distribution towards both the extremities in an equal way. So this selection is called stabilizing selection. Got it? From the mean value, the population distribution is same towards both the extremities. Same towards both the extreme environment, I'm telling. E1 extreme environment, E2 one more extreme environment. But the population distribution is same towards both the extreme environments. This is called stabilizing selection. Stabilizing selection. Got it? Now coming to directional selection. Directional selection, if you look from the mean value, let's say this is mean value. Suppose population is more favorable towards only one direction. Population is more favorable towards only one direction, more favorable towards E2. Let's just example I'm telling. More favorable towards E2 and less favorable towards E1. Less favorable towards E1. You just observe the size of population towards extremity 2 and the size of population towards extremity 1. That means this is following one direction, right? So that's why it is called directional. The population is following one particular direction. Towards the population is moving towards, that means they are being favorable towards one extremity is favorable towards the population. So that's why the population distribution is more towards one particular extremity. What is this? Denotes a directional selection. This denotes the directional selection. Now coming to disruptive selection, here there is no, the individuals of both extremes are more favorable. Towards both the extremities, more favorable but not equal. So that's why it is called disruptive. That's why it is called disruptive. In this case, you will find in these cases you will find the two peaks. Okay, two peaks will be formed in this. Suppose it's a geographical region and mean value. Again, one more extremity towards extremity 1 and extremity 2. Okay, like this. So there are two peaks can be seen. Two peaks can be observed. Two peaks. This selection is nothing but disruptive selection. Disruptive selection. Now we are going to study about the Darwinism and Lamarckism theories. Darwinism and Lamarckism theories. So Darwinism, Lamarckism. Darwinism and Lamarckism. These two topics we are going to study now. First, Darwinism. There are two given by Charles Darwin himself, the theory of natural selection. It is also called theory of natural selection. And it is given by Charles Darwin. It's given by Charles Darwin. It's given by Charles Darwin. Charles Darwin. There are two important principles. There are two important key concepts. We call them key concepts. Okay, those key concepts are evolution by natural branching descent. First one, branching descent. Branching descent. Branching descent. So what this branching descent explains, that every organism is modified descendants only. We all are modified descendants. Each and every organism that is surviving on the earth right now are modified descendant of their previous life forms. Okay, every organism is a modified descendant of their previous life forms, of their previous life forms. This explains the branching descent. This is nothing but a branching descent. And second one, natural selection. I already explained it. Natural selection. Okay. Second one, natural selection. Natural selection. Here, nature is going to select. Got it? Suppose there is a bacterial population. Okay, consider a bacterial colony, capital A. Let's say there is a bacterial colony A growing on a particular given medium. Okay, if the medium composition is changed, this bacterial colony, okay, this is a bacterial colony introduced into a medium, introduced into particular medium, which is growing favorable for that, which is favorable for that. All of a sudden, we change the medium. Now we changed medium. We changed medium. If changed medium, what will happen? All organisms will survive in that? No. Only a part of that. Only a part of this colony, bacterial colony, will survive under the new conditions. This is what I stated. It is not how much power and energy that we possess. It's all about that how much we are capable to adopt new conditions. But we have to adopt the new conditions, circumstances, environmental conditions. We have to survive. Then we introduced into the changed medium, we introduced B. Here, suppose B is suitable, more suitable than this A species. This B will survive more, right? Because only part of them are surviving, and they can be converted to B also, because they are going to be a new adapting species, no? Newly adapted species under new conditions. So the nature will select. For them, this medium is a nature only, right? In the same way, Earth, we all organisms, if we are capable of surviving the new changes in environment, definitely we are going to survive. Definitely we are going to survive. This is how it is. Got it? And this natural selection, actually, the Mr. Thomas Malthus, he worked on a population. Thomas Malthus. First time he was worked on populations and their changes, their dynamics, and their adaptations. About all this, Thomas Malthus has done a lot of study. But this has influenced Darwin a lot. Charles Darwin got influenced by the Thomas Malthus work on the populations. Okay, so now natural selection, how it is based on different facts. I'm going to tell you what are those facts, and these facts we should remember in a same sequence, and we should understand in a same sequence. What are those facts? So those factors are: number one, heritable minor variations. First one, heritable minor variations. Heritable minor variations, it is the first thing, the first factor. It is either beneficial or harmful, but the variations are happening, right? Heritable minor variations. It may be a beneficial or useful, or it may be harmful. And number two, overproduction. Suppose if for a population, if the environment is suitable, for the particular population, the population size grows, right? The population size will grow exponentially. Got it? Not logistic. Exponentially. The population growth is going to be exponential under the favorable natural resources. Okay, and if everybody reproduces maximum reproduction. For example, bacterial population only will take. Okay, we brought some bacteria into laboratory and we provided the favorable conditions for their growth, and they keep on multiplying. 1 become 2, and 4s, 4, 8, 16, 32, 64, 128, 256, like that it goes on. It goes on. The multiplication is goes on exponentially. The bacterial population is goes on increasing as long as you are keeping them in the favorable environment. Right? The population increases. Same thing will happen. Overproduction is going to happen. Next, as they go on, like I'm taking bacteria and explained that. But for all the living organisms, always it is not mandatory that the natural resources are favorable, right? There might be limited natural resources. Limited natural resources. So natural resources will be limited. Limited natural resources. Limited natural resources. Next. That's it. I need not to explain it. The resources are not increased with increasing population, right? Resources will never increase here. Resources will be like that. But the population is goes on increasing, so natural resources will become limited at last. So that's why limited natural resources are it. And now in this limited natural resources, in this limited natural resources, now the organisms or species or population, whatever it may be, the organisms or any populations will start struggling to exist. So that leads to struggle for existence. Struggle for existence. Why they are struggling? Because limited natural resources. Because of the limited natural resources, the population starts struggling. So struggle for existence. Struggle for existence. And during this struggle, in this struggle, whoever capable of surviving, whoever fit and capable, they are only going to survive. Those organisms and those populations only going to survive, whoever capable of surviving. So survival of the fittest, it leads to survival of the fittest. Survival of the fittest. I think you understood. One after one, the sequence we have to remember everybody, right? You see, in the struggle for existence, whoever fit, whoever capable, finally they will survive. Okay, finally, they are going to survive. Whoever capable, only who are capable, they will survive, and those who are incapable, they will eliminate. They will get eliminated from the environment. This is what going to happen. It leads to a change in population characteristics, right? Yes or no? The elimination leads to definitely a population changes, right? The population dynamics is going to change, and frequencies are going to change, and new organisms are going to develop, new species are going to develop, right? This is all going to happen. So natural selection is the most important factor for the evolution. Natural selection, okay? But the drawback is that Darwin has ignored about the variations, like how these variations come. Oh, he explained heritable minor variations, okay, explained. But what he ignored is from where these variations come from. Where he ignored that fact actually. Darwin, everything is nice, everything is good, but he explained first only, the first part only, heritable minor variations he told. But from where the variations comes, right? And what is the mechanism of speciation? He ignored the fact. He ignored that things. So that's why it's a drawback actually for Darwin's theory, right? So this is all about Darwinism. And Lamarckism theory is very simple. It's a theory of acquired inheritance. There are two important key concepts are there. Number one, use and disuse of organs. Long neck in giraffe. We already discussed in PowerPoint presentation long back. Uh, just 1 or 2 weeks back, we discussed evolution in PowerPoint presentation. Now I'm explaining on the board. Long neck, appearance of long neck. It's a use, and disappearance of limbs in a snake. Disuse, right? Right? Use and disuse of organs. And for example, um, this theory explains eliminating the unimportant, whichever the characters are not important, they will be eliminated gradually over the generations. That what the Lamarck has explained. So use and disuse of organs is, and next important thing is, the one more key concept is use and disuse. Okay, I explained it. Then what about the other one? Whatever the characters, that comes through the life, acquired, right? The characters which comes through life acquired, they will be inherited to their next generations. What it? Inheritable, acquired characters will be inherited to their next generation, he told. Yes, these are the two key concepts of Jean-Baptiste de Lamarck. Okay, Lamarckism. Okay, Darwinism, Lamarckism, Hugo de Vries, Hardy-Weinberg equilibrium, all principles we have discussed today. Okay, tomorrow we'll come up with another topic, interesting and important topics we will discuss daily. And tomorrow, according to schedule, tomorrow onwards we'll move. Okay. Any doubts? Please raise your hand. If anybody have a doubt regarding these theories, please. Otherwise, I'll end up the session. Okay, thank you.